Welcome back to one last tour of Australia's Great Barrier Reef. I hope while you were here you were able to learn just how amazing these coral reef ecosystems really are. The Great Barrier Reef and other coral reefs around the world provide habitat or a home for all sorts of different ocean plants and animals to live. And we were able to see a few of them on our field trip. Can you identify any of these animals? Now remember, coral reefs aren't just important for wildlife, they're actually really important for people too. We love to visit coral reefs because we can snorkel, explore, and learn all about the amazing creatures that live there. But what's really neat, what's really cool is that coral reefs, they also give back to people. When visitors come and explore coral reefs, it provides tourism jobs for the people who live there, helping local towns and communities earn money. Coral reefs also make a barrier in the ocean that protect those local towns and communities from ocean waves. This is important for the almost 1 billion people on our planet that live near coral reefs. The coral reefs also provide food for people from all over the world, including you. People eat fish, crab, and other seafood like scallops and clams, all of which can come from coral reefs. On our field trip, we wanted to know why this one small section of the coral reef wasn't doing very well. So as scientists, we came up with some ideas about what might be happening, and then we made a guess or a hypothesis based on what we saw or observed in nature. And then finally, we designed a study that would help us find evidence or clues either for or against that hypothesis. We did this by actually heading out into the ocean and collecting different pieces of information. We conducted our study on 2 different coral reefs. One that seemed unhealthy, and one that looked to be in pretty good condition. And we looked at how much of each coral reef was covered in algae to see whether there was an actual difference in coral reef health between the 2 areas. Then we figured out how many fish there were in each area, and measured other resources like temperature and the distance to the nearest pollution source. Finally, we took all that information back to the lab and did some math and made some graphs to see whether we made a good guess. And that's it. That's the process that biologists use to study our amazing world of wildlife. It's that simple. Now, in our study, we found evidence that when there are too few herbivorous fish on a reef, the reef can become unhealthy. So we know coral reefs need sunlight, clean, unpolluted water, and just the right ocean temperatures to live and grow. And what's really cool is that coral reefs also need other animals, like herbivorous fish, to stay healthy too. Without these fish, the algae can grow out of control and eventually take over the reef. When the algae take over, they block the coral underneath from getting sunlight. Without sunlight, the coral polyps can't produce the energy they need to live and grow. The coral become unhealthy and can eventually die, which is bad for the coral reef and all the other animals that call it their home. Unfortunately, coral reefs around the world aren't doing very well right now. Many are unhealthy, and some are even dying. The reason coral reefs aren't doing very well is different in different places. For example, overfishing can cause all sorts of problems, including the loss of the herbivorous fish that keep the reef healthy. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean that fishing is bad. I eat fish, you probably eat fish, and that fish all has to come from somewhere. It's actually overfishing that's bad. That just means that when we fish, we can't take too many fish, or the coral reef will become unhealthy. Now, pollution can also be really harmful for the coral reef and the animals that live there too. Industrial waste, sewage from cities, and other harmful pollutants can leak from the ground into the ocean. Overpollution can also cause algae to grow out of control and make a reef unhealthy. Now, throwaway plastics, things like plastic bags at the grocery store, and plastic water bottles are also big polluters of our oceans. They can clog up coral reefs and get stuck on animals. And finally, climate change is actually one of the biggest threats facing coral reef ecosystems around the world, including Australia's Great Barrier Reef. As our world gets warmer with climate change, our oceans do too. This can cause coral bleaching, which is absolutely disastrous for coral reefs. Coral bleaching happens when the coral let go of their colorful little zooxanthella, the microscopic algae that provide them energy. When this happens, the corals turn bright white or bleach. This makes them very sick, and they can eventually die. Now, all of these things together are putting coral reefs in danger, including Australia's amazing Great Barrier Reef. Now, that's really scary for those of us who know just how important coral reef ecosystems are. And it may seem like it's way too big of a problem for any one person to do anything about, but that's totally not true. There are all sorts of things that people are doing right from their own home to help protect coral reefs. For example, some places try hard to be energy efficient. In Trisha and Ed's science lab, we try not to waste energy and always turn off the lights when we leave the room. Now, some people think hard about what food they buy and only eat seafood that's been responsibly fished. But how do you know which fish have been responsibly collected from the ocean? There's an awesome program called Seafood Watch. On their website, they have a free guide and app you can use to make safe, good choices about the fish and seafood you buy and eat. Many people also try not to use single-use, throwaway plastics. Small things make a big difference. And if they absolutely have to use throwaway plastic, they recycle it when they're done. Individual actions like not using throwaway plastics may seem small, but small things add up. By making good choices in our daily lives, we can all work together to protect our planet, including our amazing coral reefs. And that's it. Thanks for joining me, Trisha, and Ed on our field trip to the Great Barrier Reef to learn about coral reef ecosystems and our amazing world of wildlife.